What evil lurks in the dark? A question we have all asked ourselves many times. Together, we can start uncovering the truth and mystery behind the darker side of the otherworldly. And now your host of See You in the Dark, Michelle Roos.
Good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining me on another episode of See You in the Dark. I've had this guest on once before and had amazing conversation. She is pretty much your jack of all trades, but the great thing is she does understand the paranormal side, but also knows how to take it from the light to the dark and also do that little bit of magic to kind of help protect yourself from all this. Now, I'm not just talking about the paranormal of running in a building and seeing if we can talk to spirits, but everything that surrounds it. As everybody knows, there's been paranormal drama all over the place. It doesn't matter what it is. And I know it's been weighing on a lot of people, but it's not just in the paranormal, it's also everything in the world right now. Everything seems like it's been turned upside down, kind of like, the Stranger Things were in the upside down. And no matter what gets thrown at her, she, ends up making sure she puts her force field up to kind of navigate through it, through the collective and all that. And have had some amazing chats with her of, how do we do this? How do we take that special little magic that we all kind of strive to hold on to and use that to help ourselves? Now, I will warn everybody, both myself and my guests are kind of under the weather tonight. So we might do a sniffle or there could be a little cough. I do apologize, but I want to thank her for even with 100.4 temperature to still be on the show tonight. That I told you she's a trooper. So why don't we get her on? Let's welcome Miss Erin Bush.
Hi.
Yeah.
Good to see you, sort of.
Yeah. I see your picture. Thank you for coming on. I've let everybody know. I mean, we've got a fever, we've got coughs, we feel crazy.
We're a
But
mess.
yeah, um, but hey, you know what? We're gonna push through this.
Yes, we are. And thank you
No.
for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this show is supposed to be raw, so here we go.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, like I kind of said at the beginning, with the paranormal field, with just the world right now,
Mm-hmm.
everything is upside down. Nobody knows how to navigate anywhere right now.
Agreed.
And, everybody talks about, I'm trying to meditate, I'm trying to do certain things, but just nothing seems to help
Yep.
because the frenzy on social media, on the news, everywhere, it doesn't matter where you're at, everything is so negative.
Yeah.
And, myself, yourself, we always try to find this positive road. And, and I've noticed lately it's getting just a little bit harder for me. I keep,
Yeah.
keep trying to truck along, but it's at the point of, okay, we got to think of something new. And I know we all believe in that little bit of magic of something to help us through,
Sure.
kind of guide us through of you've had so many changes in your life now in the past year. You're navigating all sorts of new things. Kind of what are some of the special little things that you grasp onto that kind of help you with your everyday?
It's funny we're having this conversation because Carrie and I had a show last week, and we were discussing, the reality of how difficult it can be to have a consistent spiritual practice, and I think a lot of that is the state of the world and the state of, everybody's personal life and whatever they're going through. And I think for me, I think my two biggest things are, one, perspective. I mean, within the last year, I quit my dream job. I had two significant deaths. I got a divorce. I moved to Maine. My life did it went, like you said, to the upside down. And I think for me, knowing, having a good perspective about it, like and what directly ties into that is the second thing for me is I always know that the universe is looking out for me. I may not be able to see the forest for the trees right now, but I do know that something bigger than myself is guiding me on this path, and that everything that's happened in my life, and especially over the last year, is all happening for a reason. For me, a lot of it is things that no longer serve my highest good are sort of falling away. But I think the biggest thing in that for me has been maintaining a perspective that's positive. And of course, there's days that are just brutal. There are days where you just cry or you're angry or whatever. But then, for me, it's not staying in that space, leaning on my friends, but really understanding that there's a bigger plan at play for me here. And I just don't know what that is yet, but trusting the universe to know that I don't need to know all the answers right now. I just have to, keep going, do the things that I love to do, enjoy the new space that I'm in, even though it's different and I'm clearly sick all the time.
Yeah.
I've learned when you move from the ocean in Florida to the mountains of Maine that your body just is like, what is happening? But that's okay. This is temporary. That's the other thing for me is everything's temporary. And I get to decide how I look at these situations and how I choose to react to them. And I think so the perspective, trusting the universe, and knowing it's temporary are probably my three biggest things that help me navigate this.
Do you feel that because of all the negativity that's out there, that people are kind of missing those signs? Because, everything has to be yesterday.
Yeah.
And I feel like if that satisfaction is not there, that people just want to, just give up. And I feel that like you said, with the universe, it's going to give it to you when it's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And I have just noticed more and more people are just like, well, Reiki didn't help me, or this
Mhm.
kind of healing didn't help me, so I guess I'm just doomed, and are
Mhm.
falling deeper and deeper into that void.
I would agree. I mean, I think, as a Reiki practitioner, I have not been great at practicing what I preach over the last year. But I think realistically, at the end of the day, last year for me was about surviving it. And I think because I have such a deep connection to the universe, and what my life has looked like, especially over the last 3 years. I mean, you and I met right when I got into this. I mean, you're one of the first people that I met, and you have always been one of my most trusted friends, somebody I always have admired, really respected your perspective. And you've helped me with a lot of stuff. I mean, as we know, I went through some dark stuff at the
Mhm.
Conjuring House. Not, well, I shouldn't say dark, but an angry spirit. We'll say that. Um,
Correct.
but I very quickly realized I was out of my element. But I had the choice to either freak out, keep trying to, Google things and look on the internet and how do I fix this? And it was like, nope, call the people who know more than you do. Call the people who navigate this kind of stuff. And that's why for me, a lot of it was relying on the people around me who know more. And I think the connection to the universe kind of superseded all this metaphysical stuff I've been doing because it just kind of went by the wayside. Like I said, last year I was just trying to survive it. You know what I mean? And but the one thing that never left on the metaphysical end of things was my faith in the universe and the faith in the people around me. I've got a small circle for a reason, and those people I trust implicitly. And every single one of those people in that small circle have made a monumental difference in my life and all the changes I've been navigating in this year. But I think it is easy to give up, especially with, really since COVID, the world always feels like it's falling apart. But I think you still get to make a choice, right? Like you still have a choice of how you're going to handle the chaos in the world around you. Like for me, moving to Maine, when I left St. Augustine, I wanted a place that was quiet. It was, my soul needed silence. My soul needed that contemplative space to be, in Florida where I was living, it's a small town, but it's a tourist town. So there's always lawnmowers and weed whackers and ambulances and people and dogs and cars. Like there's just never quiet. So to be able to come to a space like I'm at in Maine, and really every time I step outside, there's like no sound,
Oh, beautiful.
So it's just been, if certain things weren't working, it's like, okay, well, let's try something else. Let's do something different. Like I don't think I've ever been a person to want to give up in general, but I definitely over the last 3 or 4 years have learned better ways to cope. And I give a lot of credit to that, to all the things I've learned on the spiritual and metaphysical end of things, but also the people I choose to keep close to me in my life.
And see, that's so well said. And like because I've noticed lately, and I'm one that'll kind of browse through Facebook. Um, it's so easy for everybody to do, something negative.
Oh yeah,
And people just jump on that.
they
You put
do.
something positive out there just to give that, that little glimmer of light. And it's like, you might get one thumbs up. And it's like, where have we become? What have we become in this society
Yeah.
that if we're not constantly in a dooms state,
Yeah.
then it's not real.
Correct.
And,
Well,
we talk spiritual warfare, and that's kind of where I'm thinking. It's like, the darkness is starting to really overtake everything.
oh, I agree. Especially when I think you hit the nail on the head, where we're a society driven by drama and negativity. Well enough, and
Hmm.
anybody who's followed my old job for the last year, um, the amount of negative untruths on places like YouTube and Facebook about all of us. But the way I've sort of handled that is I just sit back and I'm like, you know what? The universe only works one way. The universe doesn't really care what you want. The universe only is able to give back to you what you put out. So for me, I've always tried to lead with kindness. I've always tried to be helpful. I've always tried to, fill a need for someone who's struggling or needs help with, insert thing here. I've got a weird set of skills, right? My admin background is deep, and, I've been able to help other people use that. So for me, it's like, I've looked at the last year, especially the last 6 months, a lot of that good that I've put out into the world, and especially in this field, has come back to me. So I think it's a testament to, even though the world and the state of everything right now is really bad and
Oh,
is
yeah.
so negative, you still get to make that choice. And I still make a choice every time I get up in the morning that I want to be a helper, right? What's that quote by Mr. Rogers? It was like, always look for the helpers.
Yes.
That's something I learned that from my parents. I mean, my dad was always the first to jump in a car when there was like a tornado in South Georgia, like with a chainsaw and a ladder and whatever else. I mean, he would just go. And, things like, I remember being in the first grade, I went to Catholic school, and my first day at Catholic school, I remember we met the janitor, Mr. Jefferson. And I remember my dad introducing me to Mr. Jefferson. And he pulled me aside after, and he said, you need to always remember that Mr. Jefferson is just important as your principal. And for whatever reason, that is stuck in my brain. And I'm 46 years old, so that's been 40 years. I've just always decided to lead with kindness. Now, I've gotten throttled for that. I'm fake. I'm trying to get something. I have an agenda. I have an angle. And if people want to think that, that's fine. But I think I've also learned, when you lead, and you're this way, when you lead life like that, you become a mirror to everyone else out there. You're mirroring back, not on purpose, the energy of who they are. And a lot of people can't stand it. But I'm still not going to let that change who I am as a person, because that is who I am at the core. And I still get to make that choice every day of what kind of person do I want to be when I get up in the morning. I mean, I want to be able to sleep at night. So has it cost me some things? Sure. But it hasn't cost me my integrity, because I feel like if I don't have that, then I've got nothing. And it's been a battle, but at least I've been able to stay true to myself. And I think that's where people get lost. They want the fame. They want the comments, thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of views on YouTube. And that's all fine and great. Like, I respect that. I have a lot of friends who are creators, but those friends of mine, yourself included, are people who lead with kindness. And for whatever reason, people like that absolutely drive other people crazy because they're not that way. So to me, it's a choice we make every day. What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be able to sleep at night? Does it make you feel better to trash other people on the internet? For a lot of people, that answer is yes. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it many times before too, just like you. You're really nice to everybody. You want to give I
Hmm.
mean, because you give your energy just like I do,
Yeah.
and you hear, oh, fake, or you're looking
Yep.
for something. But yeah, it's kind of like you sit back and you say nothing and you
Right.
just let it go. And people are like, how can you do that? How can you just not, And it's like you have to find your own inner peace.
Yeah.
Sometimes saying nothing is stronger than throwing things out there, And so that's kind of, how I've dealt with things too.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I found some of my inner peace,
Yeah.
And that's considered my little magic, I keep it in a little bottle inside of me. So this way I can just sprinkle fairy dust on everybody who makes me mad. So
Or your protection spray, which is my favorite like security blanket ever. But
oh yeah.
we've both, and we've been through some of this together. I mean,
Yeah.
some pretty nasty, ugly stuff. And um, to still make the choice, because, it's been interesting. I think you would agree on this point that a lot of those people are now dealing with massive amounts of issues.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
to me, it's like, okay, the energy is going to play itself out. I don't know when, I don't know how, but it's going to play itself out. The universe knows no other way to work. So if I just keep my head on straight, keep doing what I do best, I stay in my lane. I know what my lane is, and I'm very good at staying in it. Um, but I remember somebody said to me, what do you get out of rubbing elbows with all these celebrities? And I'm like, you know what? I get to be a part of these people's lives because I'm very happy in the background, supporting them, doing what they do. I don't want to be famous. I don't care. Never wanted to be involved with, filming or anything. That's just not where I'm at. I'm just not comfortable in that space. So where I really excel is supporting people who are in that space. And I'm perfectly happy back there. I love to be stuck in a Harry Potter closet in my PJs with my hair on my head, makeup with a cup of coffee. Like that's my element, right? And so, somebody asked me that, well, what do she was very mad at me. And I just said, I'm not trying to get anything out of anyone. I've just tried to be nice and fill a need. And I've gotten some really neat experiences out of it. And I've got some really amazing friends out of it. They just happen to be well known in the field. But that was never my angle. I mean, I literally dropped into this field out of nowhere. And I like to blame that on Andrea Perron a lot. She knows I say
Oh,
that.
of course, because she dropped you right
Dropped
there
me
in
right in it.
Vegas and
Yep.
arms wide open, and that's how it all started.
Right. But I've just chosen not to react to the negativity. I don't care anymore. It took me a while to get there. And you know that. You watch me struggle with it a
Mhm.
little bit because I do want to make people happy. I am a people pleaser, but I finally reached the point where it's like, I don't care. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm helping other people and I'm very comfortable in my lane. And, if people want to be angry about it and they want to be negative, then that's on them. I can't fix that. I can't control anybody else but myself. And I'm not going to change who I am for any reason.
No, please don't, because you are someone, well, anybody, it doesn't matter if you're, just like me. I don't need to have the 5 minutes of fame, but what I do, want is the respect. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it goes both ways,
Yeah.
because when we look at it, if we're looking at just the stuff on the metaphysical side or any other side, everything has to have that balance.
Yes.
And a lot of people that whether it's they're all going all dark or they're going all light. And I think this is where, it the adjustment hasn't been made there. And that's
Right.
something that I'm like, if you just give respect,
Mm-hmm.
that right there will help balance both of those sides. And
100% agree.
that is so hard, and I'm not trying to just throw it out there like this, but especially a woman in the field that is
Oh
not
yeah.
not, what some guys would consider bombshells or arm candy,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that actually is doing the work,
Right.
and things like that. And it's like, I know what my worth is.
Right.
Why can't there be that respect? And that's when I talk to people like you, how
Right.
do I find that balance what can I do on more the metaphysical side to make sure my bubble stays intact the way it needs to be? And
Yeah.
a lot of people are struggling with that because I think a lot of the listeners out there are probably struggling with that fact of respect, because if I had, I'm not on, I haven't been on TV, so that I'm not going to get that same respect or that same whatever as, somebody who has been.
Yeah. I mean, we were approached, I think it was fall of, what is it, 25? So fall of 23, about doing a reality TV show at the farm. And I really, really didn't want to do it.
Mhm.
Um, I was begged, and so I finally agreed. But I made the decision not to sign the contract, and did an interview with the production team, and it didn't sit right with me. And it wasn't anything about the production company, but it was like, this is so far out of my comfort zone that and I kept hearing, you need to step out of your comfort zone. I'm like, but I still get to be who I want to be, and I don't have to let anybody push me around to do something I don't want to do. Now, obviously, things fell apart up there anyway.
Yeah.
However, I had made the decision already that I wasn't going to be a part of it, because I told the producer, I don't wear makeup. I'm not wearing stage makeup. And she's like, well, you're going to have to, you're going to see yourself on camera. And I said, but at least I'll be seeing myself on camera as me. Like, that was one thing I was really kind of hard pressed on with it. But at the end of the day, it didn't work out. And I just am so grateful, because that wouldn't have been a situation, especially everything that's happened since. I wouldn't have been able to stand behind that project. I would much rather be in the background on the production crew, running and getting coffee or getting batteries or, running cables or whatever. Like, I know my lane. I'm comfortable in my lane. And after that, I made the decision, I am not going to let anybody push me into something I don't want to do ever again. Now, on the other hand of that, I think, and you've seen some of this too, I think the upside of being in this field is, if you want to be a part of it and you want to keep growing, because you and I both love to learn.
Yes.
I always want to learn. And that's why I love the group of friends that I have, because I get to learn from some of the best in the field. And I think for me, I have been pushed out of my comfort zone. I mean, who takes their first job in the paranormal field sleeping at the Conjuring House for 3 weeks? Nobody said I was smart, right? But I've been pushed.
And you made so many friends.
Yes, I did. One, Ann Richardson. But I think for me, those were things I was comfortable with, because I'm like, if I'm going to be involved in this field, then I have to learn to investigate. I have to become comfortable with calling out what I'm picking up as a sensitive myself. And I learned that more from Zaffis than anybody else. He's
Mhm.
really pushed me to get comfortable with that. So I've been pushed, but in the right ways, right? Nobody else was getting anything out of it other than me getting to learn more about the field that I have chosen to be a part of. And I had to push myself. Cody and Satori pushed me too. I mean, they often put me in situations that they know I need to be in, and they're right. And so I have the right people around me, that when I do decide to step out of my comfort zone, I have a group of people to help me get through that situation. But again, it all, for me, always goes back to perspective. And I choose to learn and grow in this field. I choose to continue to help other people be successful in their careers from the back end of things. And I think that's how I kind of balance the light and the dark. Because again, like, you have to have both. You can't have one without the other. We all know that. I've seen a lot of dark in the last year, but I've also been surrounded by a lot of light. And I feel very fortunate to have been, even in the terrible situation we were in last year and continue to still be in, to have a network of people that we went through this together, that we are all, I got 7 of my best friends out of that whole situation, that we all really rely on each other. And I was in that situation for a reason. Did it end the way we wanted it to? No, but it ended the way it was supposed to.
Correct. And hey, you didn't have to put makeup on,
I did not.
and she was able to get all the TV time that she needs, right?
Oh
So,
my
I
God.
mean, karma sometimes.
Karma for
And
sure.
yeah, and so, when we're talking about all this, like I said, talking about that little bit of magic that we all have,
Hmm.
and that magic is actually us having the control of what we're allowing in and what we're protecting ourselves from. And I think a
100%.
lot of people don't realize a lot of that. But what
Right.
I'm going to do is we're going to take a short break, and I want to get back to what people can do and how can they find that special little magic for themselves.
Love it.
Tickets are now on sale for Rebels of Disclosure 2025, May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois at the beautiful Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center. This will be a 4-day event with 12 speakers covering topics such as ET contact, experiencer testimonies, lost history, secret space programs, time travel, Illuminati, parallel realities, and so much more. Visit journeytotruth.online for more details.
The Onyx Network classes and workshops are enrolling now for 2025. If you're interested in psychic protection, chakra balancing, dowsing, or perhaps healing with sound and music, visit onyxnetwork.com to see our complete series of live and on-demand classes and workshops hosted by the one and only Margie K. For example, in January 2025, you could spend 4 Saturdays with Margie for her exclusive live remote viewing workshop. Margie K is one of the most accomplished remote viewers in the world, and she will share her secrets and totally unique methods in this course. Some courses are open now. Seating is limited for these live courses, so register now at unxnetwork.com. Unx members use promo code XMEM for an additional 15% discount.
And welcome back. I'd like to take this moment to say thank you for everybody who's on tonight and listening. Thank Erin again for joining us. We've kind of been talking a little bit about, the things that are going on in the world, whether you're in the paranormal field, not in the paranormal field, but just in general. We always talk about, everybody can talk about all the different types of healing methods, things that can make us feel better, certain types of hauntings, or, healings, sorry, and different things like that. But I don't think a lot of people understand for that to work, we have to be able to go inside ourselves. We all have it, but how do we hone in on what we already have, and how can we use that to try to navigate through our lives, whether it's just a regular 40-hour week or whatever you do. And the reason Erin is the great guest for this is, one, spiritually, you're just magnificent. I mean, that part is where you give the zen.
Thank you, ma'am.
You know, if you were to kind of talk to people and say, okay, here, everybody's got this little gleam of light right there in their chest.
Yeah.
What would you be able to tell them to how they could maybe navigate some of that to help their own healing?
For me, a lot of it, and hopefully I'm on the right track here. For me, one of the biggest things is to get outside of it for a few minutes, disconnect from the chaos, the world, the drama, whatever. And for me, one of the big things is just to go outside, ground your energy, get your bare feet in the grass. And right now in Maine, it's a little hard to do with like 15 inches of snow on the ground. But the way I do that now is bundle up and to quote a Christmas story, like I'm going extended deep sea diving, and just embrace the silence. I mean, that's what I moved here for, right? And just look at the beauty of where I'm living, and the mountains and the trees and the snow, and watch the wind coming through. And just remember that we are part of something so much bigger. And it kind of helps me remember that a lot of the other little stuff doesn't really matter. But so for me, a lot of it is really connecting back to nature. And this is going to sound weird, but my mom always taught me, my mom's in the chat. Hi, Mom. Do something nice for someone else. Like when you're really struggling with your own life, go do something good for someone else. Go volunteer. Go, help somebody with something. But it's step outside of yourself and find a happy place, something else that brings you joy, that allows you to step out of it, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. Am I on the right track there?
Yes, you are. You are. Well, and I think a lot of people have to understand too, there's not a wrong way.
No.
And I think that's what everybody gets caught up in, like
Have to do
yourself.
it perfect.
Yeah. And so like you are amazing with Reiki. Okay. I couldn't Reiki to save my life, you know. So that's not my lane, but I also have some healing properties that I can do because it's very imperfect.
Yes.
And I think if people would actually grasp onto that piece,
Yeah.
they would find what their inner, healing would be.
Oh, agreed. I mean, to me, it's just anything I do, my intent is never to hurt anyone. I mean, yes, we're witches, and yes, we, do some funny stuff with crystals, and we burn stuff, and, light things on fire, and, God knows I love a good fire, but my intentions are always good. Like, I don't want to hurt anyone. And if I stay in that headspace, then I always know that everything's going to work out just fine, because I know my intentions are good and the universe is going to send that back to me. I mean, I looked at my, that amazing birthday video I was surprised with, by Carrie, who's also in chat, on my show. And I just sobbed afterwards, because in that moment, I realized that all the stuff that I've been putting out was coming back to me, but that was never my intention. My intention is never to get anything out of anyone. My intention is always, how can I help? What can I do to make your life easier? How can I lessen your burden, I guess, for lack of a better way to phrase it. But then you do get those moments when the universe gives you this huge burst back. And I think they're not kidding about witchcraft when they say whatever you put back comes back tenfold. And it's true.
Very true. Very true.
So to me, a lot of the way I navigate it is I'm a helper. And I learned that from my family. And I feel like I can't. Now, have I been burned before? Sure. But it doesn't make me change what I'm doing. I think if I stay true to who I am, and if I'm feeling some sort of way, and trust me, there's been plenty of days up here with the amount of changes I've been going through where it's just hard. And I go outside, or I hop in the car and go drive around to some cute little town in Maine, or, I just try to do something small that brings me joy. That's usually what works for me.
And see, and if you think about it, there is a lot of people out there like we are that are helpers.
Yep.
That will put themselves in a situation, and it might not be a healthy situation, but it's just, they're so, like you said, the intent is just out of pure love.
Right.
And, then at that point it absorbs them.
Yeah.
And then they're in this void that I call
Mhm.
it, and can't find their way out. And again, we have crystals, we burn stuff, some people use prayer, whatever the intent is.
Right.
But I think everybody is so focused on, I have to do this perfect. I
Yes.
have to do it like I see it on social media, or it's wrong.
Right.
And I think this is why so many people have a hard time finding themselves out of that darkness.
100% agree. And I think you've really nailed it with, because I was that way. I mean, when I first started doing Reiki, I thought I had to do it just the way I was taught. Right.
Yeah.
My practice has morphed so much since getting into Reiki originally, and I'm traditionally trained. But, now I channel galactic energy, and I, work with other spirits, and I have like a whole gaggle of people, quote unquote, that I call in for healing sessions, because I still look at myself as basically like a copper tube. It's not my energy I'm using. It's their energy. It's the universe. It's source energy. I just get to be the lucky person who gets to channel it out. But in that practice and practicing Reiki and, working on my family and working on my friends, I have learned, like you just said, there's no perfect way. As long as your intention is pure, there's no wrong way to do it. So you get to try stuff, play with things, If you're feeling drawn to something, go for it. And if you don't like that, try something else. But there, like you said, there's no wrong way to do this stuff. As long as you're not trying to hurt someone, go wild with it, you know?
Yeah.
People are often scared to step into that space if they're not already in it. But I think they forget, you know, we've been doing this stuff since time immemorial. This is nothing new. We're oftentimes using ancient practices that have been working for people forever. So it just, but you know, changes with the times and technology and everything else. So there's just, I think, like you said, there's no wrong way to do it, but you have to try it. It's a muscle, just like anything else.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, the stuff that's out there is just supposed to be, you know, kind of a roadmap for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, you know, spirit then starts guiding, okay, now you kind of know the mechanics of something.
Sure.
Now let's work on it, how it needs to be done on a spiritual side,
100%
you know, because I don't think, you know, none of us, I mean, a lot of us are on a higher vibration,
right.
but we're still not at that vibration where, you know, spirit is going to have us sitting in a classroom and saying, okay, guys, this is how it needs to be done.
Right.
So, you know, it's kind of one of those, you know, I think if everybody would just tap in, you know, their own magic, what we could do,
Yep.
what we heal as a collective, you know
Right.
what I mean? And, but people are like, oh, you know, well, if I go this way, people might judge me. And you think about it, I always thought that all left when you left school,
Right.
but it doesn't. It
It's
sticks
worse.
with you. It's worse. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, you know, you had your bullies in school and you didn't want to try things, but
Yeah.
now it's kind of like, okay, if I don't say this chant correctly, oh, is somebody
Right.
going to say something, you know, or
Yeah.
your prayers, you know, because like when I call on prayers, like I say, if I talk to God, it's not, hey, you know, I'm humble, I'm going to do it other thing. It's like, okay, so Lord, here's my problem. You're
Right.
going to shake your head because I screwed up again, but
Right.
I need some help down here. Can you get, you know, can you help me, bro? And
Yeah.
people go, they're like, you can't talk to them like that. And I'm like, but why
Sure
not?
can.
And see, they also say that when we're talking about gods and goddesses, well, you have to say, you know, hail Agate. No, no, you don't.
Right.
You be like, hey, girl, I need you to come in here with your lantern. It's dark in here.
Right.
You know,
Well,
I need a
yeah.
little light over here.
Well, and I think too, it's again, it's that intention, right? It doesn't matter how it comes out of your mouth.
No.
But you know, all those things that we work with, universe and gods and goddesses and, you know, spirits and galactics and whatever, elementals for some of
Yeah.
us. They know your intention. I mean, I'll never forget when I learned one of my first weeks at the Conjuring House, when Cody and Satori had done a session and they were talking with the spirits about intention, and the spirit said specifically, we already know what your intention is, but we want to hear you say it. Of course, it was worded much more Victorian than that, but
Yeah.
the gist of it was, they know your heart already, but you got to put some oomph into it. You know, you got to want to make those connections. You've got to, it's a soul calling. And I think the other thing that's so amazing about those of us who play in this space and people who are wanting to play in this space, none of us have the same gifts. We all get our information differently. It all manifests differently. Some of us see things, some of us hear things, some of us feel things, some of us just, you know, everybody's different. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you put us all together, that's some seriously powerful stuff. Because number one, most of the time, especially like in our circle, we're not judging each other for what we can and can't do.
Correct.
It's how can we balance each other out? Okay, you're able to connect this way, you know, like you channel and, you know, you pick up on spirits. What is it? You told me I never get the love notes. Well, I usually get the love notes. We balance
Correct.
each other out. But together, if we all just learn to embrace each other for what each of us can do, whether you're involved in this field or not, it's so much easier to make those connections with the universe and manifest the things we want to manifest if we just understand that we're all different, and that's okay.
Well, and that's the thing. I think if people really tapped in, because we all have something. No, not everybody has gone through some type of awakening or anything. We all have something, you know, like your
We do.
empaths, your sensitives.
Yep.
But I feel like we're supposed to be doing this and we are supposed to be coming together because there is a bigger picture out there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But everybody is still kind of, nope, I do this and I can't talk to you. There's still people out there. I love being with other psychics
Yeah.
because that vibrational level is so high that
Mm-hmm.
the energy, if you get a lot of them together that trust each other, we actually open up our own vortex. It is so crazy.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and even though I don't give love notes, if I'm with somebody, who does a lot of love notes, somehow the connection is there, like, our little gold umbilical cords connect,
Mm-hmm.
and I am starting to see the way they see, or they see the way I see.
Yep.
And it is the most amazing magic ever. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, if you can do stuff on a psychic part that I can't do, oh my God, I'm going to lift you up because I'm in awe of that, you know?
Right.
And I wish more people would do that because I just know we're supposed to be doing something different right now as a
Yep.
whole,
Yep.
but we just can't seem to get everybody together to do it. It's like we could actually be the sunlight.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all, I think I was talking to Satori about this because they were in St. Augustine with me over the summer, and we were at this museum, and I was just getting hit from all sides, and not in a negative way. I think what I learned in that experience was with the right people and the right love between those people, as far as, really good friends, we trust each other implicitly. You start to amplify each other, like you said. You
Yes.
you're picking up on more things. You're seeing things, like you said, from their perspective, and I think it helps us all as a whole. It broadens all of our horizons because it gives us a chance to learn different things about different abilities and different people and different belief systems and perspectives. Like, again, for me, it's always choice. So, like, I could choose to only do what I know, right? And that's great, and I am good at staying in my lane. But when it comes to working with other people, I want to maximize that so I can learn more. I want to be better. Oh, what's the scary? You
You
need
have
a
to
whole
say,
other show
yep.
for that. Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, go for it.
I think the scariest thing that ever happened to me is I picked up an attachment at the farmhouse. But before that, last summer, I was up there for 3 weeks. I'll try to make this as condensed as possible. This one spirit didn't want me there. Her dead husband had been in my house in Florida for on and off for about a year. And she told Cody and Satori to basically get me out of that house. I, for the first time, was absolutely terrified because I knew Carolyn Perron very well, miss her every day. But I've looked in that woman's eyes and I know what it looked like to be the victim of an angry spirit. And I didn't want to find myself there. And I remember we were doing this session in the farmhouse with the spirit and her husband, abashedly hiding in the corner, which you picked up on.
Uh-huh.
I was in tears. I was shaking because all I could think of was, Carolyn getting beat about the head and neck with a hanger, or stabbed in the leg with a coat hanger, or attacked with a scythe. And I didn't want to be that person. And it was the first time that I thought, I am totally out of my element here. I've made a very big mistake. And it scared the hell out of me, pardon my language. But then, of course, it morphed into an attachment, which also scared me because initially I didn't know what it was. And when I ended up somehow in Daytona and don't remember getting there, I knew I was in trouble. So when I called Andrea, because this happened right before Christmas and her mom was still alive, and I called to tell Andrea what I thought was going on. I hadn't even said anything yet. And Carolyn sat up in bed before the phone call and said, Erin brought a friend back from the farm. And that was the validation I needed. It scared me. But a lot of that, I think, was my lack of experience in the field. But knowing that she wanted me out of the house and she hated my guts. It didn't help that I apparently look exactly like her, just with freckles. She was big mad. And but with the help of you and Corey and Jen and Zaphis and Cody and Satori, I was able to navigate that and work through that with her. But finding that information out when I was supposed to sleep by myself in the tent that night was not ideal.
No.
I tried to sum it up as
Well, and now just to kind of go further in this, because this
Mhm.
after you kind of got, kind of a grasp around it
Yeah.
and kind of knew how to navigate it,
Yeah.
what did you end up doing for her?
Well, that was your suggestion.
Yeah,
We
but
decided we decided um, to sit with her. Your suggestion was to sit with her and find a common ground. That common ground for her name was Ann Richardson. She was married to Noah Arnold, and one day I'll get into that whole long drawn out story. But it would take literally hours. But I think we both had abusive husbands. My first husband was very abusive, and trying to get her to understand that I was no threat to her. I had no interest in her dead husband. At the time, I was happily married, and just talking to her, I started taking with her. I would ask her to come with me on walks or come meditate with me. I just made her a part of my everyday life, and I kept trying to impress upon her we can be connected, but we don't have to be attached. And it took us 4 months to get
yeah.
her to let go. Um, and then I started feeling like she was sort of a protector because I didn't even get into the scary thing that happened in March, but I know we don't have time for that. But I had a night where I almost ran out of the farmhouse, and she had her hand on my back, like you're fine, like you're okay. So it ended up great. And then of course we lost that connection to all of them after everything that went on up there.
Oh, yeah.
But
So, yeah.
she ended up being an ally, you
And
know?
what happened was because when you first were telling me, I'm like, "Oh my God, you could be in danger and things like that." But then I had to search too, and as we were talking more, she just needed a voice
She
because
did.
she never had one.
Right.
And that's something that I always talk about,
Hmm.
sometimes spirits can be that way, but sometimes it's because they're trying to have a voice. And Erin
Yes.
actually gave her a voice. And when she got her voice, she's like, okay, wait a minute here.
Hmm.
I see who she's with. And so it was a scary time for you, but soon, like you said, because you had a close knit of people, you were able to help navigate through that. And, you weren't just out there as a lone ranger going, I got this. I'm running through the house with my cross and I've got this, you
Well, and I
know.
think that's the key to it. That was the key to it was, you hear these horror stories of people trying to navigate this stuff on your own. That's not smart. you,
No,
you you have to talk to the people who know more than you do. And obviously my first two calls after Andrea was you and then the Heinsens, because obviously the Heinsens owned the house. They had been through
yeah.
plenty there too. And it was like, okay, I am out of my element and I need help. And I'm not good at asking for help. My mother will tell you that. Um, but that was a point in my life where I really needed it and I got exactly what I needed. But the most important thing too was that everything that was suggested to me, I did religiously every day, burning white candles. I made black salt. Like I did everything that was suggested to me, I did religiously. And I am so thankful, because during that whole situation, without Cody and Satori's method, we never would have been able to even get anywhere with that, to understand what the problem was, to, figure out why she was so angry and what was really going on over there and why she was so mad at me. And so for me, relying on those people around me who are so much more experienced than I'm ever going to be was so much the key to that for me.
And that's what that's the biggest thing because you already had it.
Yeah.
And, you just needed that support around you to say, hey, use what you've got and, you can start navigating with it.
Yeah.
It was just little bits and pieces. And that's something we, again, with the show is letting people know we all have it somewhere.
We do.
And but we have to make sure we know that we can use it for ourselves, but we're not by ourselves.
No.
And everybody can find a circle,
Yes.
and we have the circle. I mean, there's been a time where I've called you and I'm like, okay, I just need to just say stuff. It makes no dang sense,
Right.
but I just got to say it. And then as we talk, then I notice, okay, now I can navigate through it,
Right.
and I've done that, because I know when I talk to you, it goes nowhere else.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and
Sandy.
that's the thing.
The answer to that is yes, I can. I can pick up on that.
Oh, she can. She picks
Hmm.
up on a lot of stuff.
I
um,
don't talk about it
but
a lot, I guess.
but that's the thing, I think if people would just take that time in that moment to be able to do that and be able to say, okay, I can do this for myself. And there
Yeah.
again, it's not there's no wrong way.
No.
And yes, people have had attachments. People have, I mean, gotten torn apart by everybody. We've gone with the living tearing us apart. We've had the
Yeah.
spirits tear us apart. But, again, when you have that little piece of magic in you,
Yep.
that can help you, and then you have the right people to kind of navigate and make that big light, there's nothing that can stop you.
Well, and knowing you, even if you're not in this field, even if you're not a practitioner of anything in this field, you're just you enjoy it or whatever. Just knowing who you are is enough magic, in my opinion, and being confident in who you are and knowing things you're good at, and how you can bring a little piece of that to a bigger picture to help somebody feel better or make their jobs easier, or you know um, we've all got, like you said, we've all got that little bit of magic, but it's owning it, I think. And I know that's something people struggle with. I still struggle with it on a lot of levels, with, especially when it comes to abilities. Like, I still question a lot of the things I get, even though I'm proven time and time again to usually be correct. I still struggle. But I think for me, the magic I bring is that helper magic, because I do just want to help people, and that's fulfilling for me. Like, that's what makes me happy too. So finding the magic that helps, whatever that is for you. For me, it's being a helper, and if it brings you, like, it should bring you joy too. But knowing that you're magic just by
Yeah.
being who you are, um, and owning who you are, and that's okay. Whoever you are, whatever you are, if your intentions are good, that's the magic right there, I think.
Well, and I'm going to go one step further, because for like yourself and like Cody and Satori and
Mhm.
Carrie and everybody that you kind of, have put yourself around, you guys have all also have been helpers and also have given a voice to the spirit world, which is what real paranormal investigations are.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes, we can debunk stuff that you definitely want to do that because we
Yeah.
want real stuff. But I've never seen people, because I thought I was the only one out there. I'm like, God, I must be the only crazy one that I don't care what the living think as long as I'm giving them a voice. But I've seen you do it time and time again. Cody and Satori do it all the time, making sure their voice is heard. Carrie
Yeah.
does it, Zaphis does it too, if it's not something dark, because when it's dark, we don't give it a voice. We're just like, shut
Right.
up. But I think that what is really important is if, the paranormal world itself will actually step out of there. I got to have 8,000 views or more on YouTube and really start letting the spirits have their voice and
Yeah.
showing that compassion both on our, regular selves, but also in the spirit world.
Yeah.
I think, that's when a lot of the healing will happen for everybody. I mean,
Agreed.
on all sides.
Yeah. Well, and like Carolyn Perrin always said, fear the living, not the dead.
Amen.
And this year has been a full-blown testament to that. And um I think that's one of the things I learned from, people like Ken and people like you and Cody and Satori, because I get to investigate with them, Jen and Corey, is it is about them. We're in their space. It's important that they know we're here to learn. We're not
Yes.
here to intimidate or bully or be mean. Like, we're here to learn. We want to be more knowledgeable and how we can represent them better. And I think that's really important. And I've learned that from all of you. I didn't learn that on my own. I learned that from all of you. But it's true.
No, and it's real true. And I think, more and more people we can get to do that because, again, we don't know. We could be, we always think that we're reaching out to them and they talk about the veil and all this, which I keep feeling the veil is not a veil. I think we're just all starting to open our eyes, and that's
Andrea
the
would agree.
spiritual
Yeah.
eyes.
Mhm.
And maybe we're on their realm,
Yeah.
and they're probably looking at us like, hey, what are you doing in my place? So, it's like, hey, let's just hang. But, I think we need to start looking at it more of that. We don't need to
Yeah.
be asking the questions like, do you know you're dead? Yeah,
Right,
really?
right,
I'd
right.
be like, hey, what's for supper? Let's hang.
Well,
So,
yeah, I know like Satori and I, Christmas 2 years ago, we were at the farm. I was out there for the party, and Cody and Satori had asked Abigail what they did for decorating at Christmas time at the farm. And so Abigail told her the things that they used to get. So Satori and I went out into the backyard and we cut pine branches and juniper branches and to represent them, hung them all over the house, but we wanted to do it to honor them. And
that's
that's really what it's
amazing.
about at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Well, everyone, I want to thank everyone who was on tonight. We have ran out of time. Oh, blah.
Blah.
But Erin, thank you so much for being on there. Listen, we both didn't cough and we didn't sniffle, so we did great.
We did.
Again, thank you everyone for the support. Until next time, I will see you in the dark.